Tune in. This week in car audio. Tune in. What we talking about, bass? I'm talking about chips. Talking about rings. You ain't got them, zip your lip. You got a problem, you haven't found, check your grounds. The show about to start. Tune in. This week in car audio. Yeah. Tune in. This week in car audio.
Welcome to This Week in Car Audio with your host, the Judge, Doug Stockton, co-hosted by the inevitable, the super movie star guy. He's going to meet my sister one of these days. I'm pretty sure they're going to meet on set together. Mr. Jeffrey Fernandez. How's it going, Jeffrey?
Good. How you doing, Doug?
Oh, just fine. Setting up our live feeds real quick. So what was I going to tell you? So my sister, Jeffrey. Oh, I wanted to mention our sponsors of today's event, obviously. We got, once again, we have Crossfire Car Audio and Puns Customs. Without them, with their help, we can continue to have this show and whatnot. Why am I not showing me on live on Facebook? I'm looking for that right now. Bam, where is my Facebook Live? There it is. Let me click on that real quick.
There we go. I see it.
Yep. All right, cool. Now pop out. There we go. I am going to share. Jeffrey, why don't you tell us about your upcoming show, whatever, like that stuff?
So as you can see right behind me, Sunday, March 12th, at Crossfire Car Audio, we're going to have another Triple Point event. Grapevine, Texas, if you guys don't know where Crossfire is. So check it out on dbdragracing.com on the calendar. And hopefully hope to see you guys there.
Yeah, hey, somebody hit something in the chat real quick. I want to make sure something's popping up because I am not seeing it right now. Somebody chat something real quick, please.
I'm seeing some people.
Well, I see them on there, but I'm not seeing them on my second screen, so I can pull them up over here.
You seeing anything? Nothing.
No. Okay, there we go. Yeah, so now I'm starting to see. I see Manny. I see Gary. There we go. I see Spencer.
Yeah.
Hold on. Let me mute my thing. I am going to continue to share this thing real quick, so just bear with me for a minute. Close share. Groups. Hold on. Check this out.
Pop Tart here says it's Dan the Man.
Pop Tart, what's going on, buddy? How'd I know he would be bored enough to watch this episode?
Why don't you talk about our guest and stuff, Jeffrey, real quick while I'm sharing this.
You know, I almost feel like he doesn't need any introduction, right? I'm sure you guys seen the scores, you've seen the vehicle, right? And today's podcast, we have the man. How many world championships do you have?
Not as many as we might think. You might got me beat, Jeffrey. Well, let's see. 1, 2, I believe 4 or 5, maybe 4 or 5.
4 or 5.
I can't. I gotta rethink this all.
Well,
we had the COVID and all that, so that kind of messed up that 2-year deal. So it turned into 1 year, but 2.
Otherwise, it would have been more, right?
Yeah, maybe so. Yeah. Well, we'll see what we can do.
All right. So our guest today is Dan Horner, multiple world champion, multiple world record holder, right?
Correct. Just a few.
Just a few.
We're coming today. What are we doing today? I couldn't tell you. We're going to show you guys how to recone a subwoofer our way, I guess. I don't know. But yeah, no.
The Dan way.
The Dan way.
Gary Killian says that I sound like the old romper room. I see Billy and Bobby and Gary.
I think you just dated yourself there, Doug.
Well, that was Gary.
You just dated himself.
But I am old enough that I did watch them as original runs. So just saying. Pop Tart wants to know how many total world titles does DTX hold, and not just you.
Oh my, you're gonna put me on the spot. No, the boys do a lot better job than I do at making the team look good. I'll tell you that. It's been a pretty wild ride with some of them. It's some of them in the same class, unfortunately. But what can you do?
Right.
I'm not going to tell somebody, hey, no, you can't compete with me because, well, this guy's here. Well, let them duke it out, I guess. And we've seen a couple times of that last year. I don't know. I mean, I bet if everybody that got a championship wants to go ahead and type on there, we might get a count. But it's been pretty good the last, what would it be, 4 years roughly, I believe, is kind of what we've been doing DTX now. So
nice.
Yep.
If you guys are listening to the show and you've won a world championship and you're on DTX, comment with a thumbs up so that way.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. All right. So
and not Pop Tart. He doesn't count. He can't be.
He's not DTX.
Yeah. I'm just kidding, buddy. Yeah, he'd be one of them. But yeah, there was a pretty good fight, I believe, in that class as well.
Oh, right. Yeah.
One against Sam, which was one to work with kind of directly. But Sam on here too.
Pop Tart says he did hit the thumbs up.
Nice.
Okay. So the genesis of what we're doing right now. I just want to say real quick. We'll do some house cleaning stuff real quick before we get going. The genesis of where this came from. We had DB Don on here a few weeks ago, and Don says we should probably do some more DIY stuff. And you know what? We said, hey, that's actually a great idea. I'm always looking for ideas to make this show better and more entertaining for you guys and more informative. So our first thought was, let's have a recone. And who else will we get as a reconer? Dan, why would we have you as our reconer for this show?
Well, I mean, we do this every day of our life, I guess, for the last how many years. But besides the point, I guess, I mean, we do run DB drag and such too. So I probably came to mind kind of hand in hand with that one. But yeah, I mean, it's not exactly rocket science. And that's what we're going to try to show you today, that, it'd be helpful to get it out to the customers too. There's a lot of them that sometimes say, hey, I would like to do this, but I don't really feel confident enough to give it a try. But if you get enough information out there, it's challenging if you've never done it, I suppose, but it's not impossible. And that's what we kind of want to get the point across, and maybe get people a little more, I remember the first one I did, I was like, man, I hope this is 100% right. Because if this is off, it's going to rub or something bad's going to happen. But we'll go over some of the basics where I have had people actually hit me up on the website and email, so on. A couple things that are kind of, for a first timer wouldn't maybe catch on or know, but it'd be useful information for them to have, because it would save them kind of the, oh my God, I don't know what I did wrong. But there's a few things that can happen that might not actually be anything wrong per se. They just didn't finish the process. And there's a few things that we'll talk about, I suppose, with that.
All right. So Dan owns a shop called DTX, right?
Yeah, Directronics.
Directronics, yeah. So you shorten it to DTX.
Upon a time, was started by Brian Chamberlain of Sundown Audio originally. Sorry, Brian, if you're on here, I don't know, but I don't remember the year he started it. 15 maybe, I believe, is kind of what he told me. I can't quote myself on that though.
So what does your shop do? What does DTX do?
What we do is repair, refurbish, make custom subwoofers / recones. If you got a subwoofer, might have laying around, want to get it repaired, fixed. We don't just do only Sundown. Now, don't let this, I just figured, hey, I got something that needs to get done at the shop. We'll just do this one. So, but we do other companies as well, shoot us a message. If you don't see it on the website, doesn't not necessarily mean we can't do it. It means I want to make sure we get the right info, try to get with the customer, make sure they know what they have exactly. We know what they have, try to get the measurements we need.
So my guess is DC audio, incriminator audio, Rockford Fosgate, the kicker.
It very much depends on some. Some of them do have very kind of, I guess, proprietary size parts or odd duck type stuff. Those we generally say, okay, well, the company still exists. Go get the recone from them if that's what they're trying to have done. If we can make something, try to make something a little different. You know, a lot of the SPL arena guys, you know, they like messing around with some different parts and trying different configurations. We try to help with that as best we can. I know there's a few others that kind of brainstorm back and forth with some of them ideas too. So we do have kind of a group of people, like you're saying, Team DTX and all that. Yeah, we had a pretty good amount of championships, I believe, again this last year. But I mean, a lot of this R&D and testing is being done by those guys.
Yeah.
I mean, we do directly use quite a bit of sundown, but like I said, it's not the only thing. We did have some guys running some American-based Neos, a couple other guys were running some Incriminator Neos, so on and so forth. DC, a couple guys run DC Neos, still the old tight gap ones. That's still pretty popular sub amongst people.
When I started,
pretty much whatever. Yeah.
When I started, I was running Beyond Audio, which is DB Don's, and I had to recone a couple of subs, and that's how I ended up, you know, learning how to recone. Is as a competitor when I started, you know, DB Don's out of Canada, and to ship stuff back and forth from Canada is a pain in the ass.
Yeah, pricey.
Yeah, it's super expensive. So
no, we deal with some of that too. I mean, we do have some Canadian, you know, customers that we've had since the beginning of having DTX that we've had as kind of friends and, you know, acquaintances. And, you know, the shipping is what kills it, unfortunately. I wish there was a way around that, but I mean, it's pretty insane when you see the tariffs you get thrown at you along with the shipping. That's already outrageous. And I can definitely relate. I feel bad sometimes when I see what some of the shipping prices are. It's like, holy cow, you know, but you know, we do the best we can even to help the people in the different countries and stuff too as best, you know, with some of the shipping prices, but that is, some of that's pretty phenomenal.
Okay. So let's start this off. Also, if you guys look in the description of today's event, whether you're on Facebook or YouTube, you will see a link to a Google Doc. We're going to be giving away a float frisbee and a DB drag float frisbee and a CD. We're going to give away that at the next show on the 6th. All you need to do is fill out the information on there and be a subscriber on the YouTube. We're trying to build up our subscribers. So if you guys would please, you know, join our YouTube, get a second handle, you know, get a, like a, what's that called? Just go get yourself a Gmail and become another subscriber. Wouldn't hurt my feelings. But yeah, we're trying to run to 1,000 subscribers, but we're going to start by giving away some small stuff. And as we continue on, we're going to get bigger. All right. So Dan, so here you are, you're pounding away, you're at Slamology, you decided, hey, I'm going to play my system at full tilt for 4.5 minutes. All of a sudden, the magic smoke gets released from inside your speaker box.
That's pretty common.
That's accurate.
It's good. I'm glad, you know, I think that sometimes I'll say, hey, some of the guys I know even from our group, they will push their system a little bit harder at Slamology, knowing that, hey, Dan's gonna
he's there.
Will be taken care of. But you know, we've helped out a bunch of random people too at, you know, Slam too, even people that don't, you know, typically aren't our customers. They're still blowing stuff up, and you know, we'll do what we can to get them playing again. Yes, with that being said, I do believe we're planning on bringing the recone trailer to Slam this year. I don't see that being something different in the near future, because that's kind of the place, you know, that's one of the places. If there's demoing going on, there's normally people blowing stuff up.
You need to make it out here to Autorama. We have the Canadians are coming down to Autorama too this year again.
Nice.
How late in the year is that?
That is April, the last weekend of April 28th and 29th, I believe.
Man, you guys got all these shows first couple of weeks, first months that actually dry up around here. I might, you know, the way it's been snowing up here lately with the blizzards, we just got another one like a day ago. I'll be lucky I can get the trailer out by April.
Julio says that's a good smell. Yeah. Nick Semino says some people can't roll up to a show or finals with 4 sets of subs like others. And Julio says he loves the smell of coil in the morning.
Yeah.
You know, I joked around. There was people that had a meme once upon a time with that candle. Could you imagine somebody made a Yankee candle that smelled like a burnt moist? That
would be Jeffrey's nightmare.
Yeah. Just light that one up, and every base head will get one for Christmas. It'll be like their worst nightmare coming true. Oh my God, it doesn't go away. You know?
I bet you that would sell.
Yeah. But yeah, I guess, is there any particular order you'd like to discuss?
I'd like to start it. So you just blew a subwoofer.
Yes.
What's number one thing to do? So if you're going to do it yourself, first thing you're going to have to do is you're going to have to source the subwoofer parts, right?
Generally, I mean.
So where would you source those parts in general?
If you're going to do it yourself, there's a couple places you can get them. I've seen parts, you can get them on eBay. Probably wouldn't be my first choice, but one of the guys that does sell the parts on eBay also owns Florida Base. I've seen him sell both places.
Okay.
That would be one place if you're looking to find parts. We sell full recone kits. Like I said, we can get you to this point. This is probably the safer point for most customers.
So that for people that don't understand,
Jeffrey shaking his head. Yeah, we better get them at least.
Yeah, so for people that have not been part of reconing or been in this part of the industry before, what would you call that thing that you have all set up there? Like you said, you would get to a point.
This here would be more of a drop-in style recone, which would be like what you would get from the manufacturer a lot of times. Like Sundown would send you something very similar to this.
So a drop-in for you for people that don't understand. So the drop-in means the triple joint.
This would be.
So go ahead and explain that.
Full replacement kit. Basically, you cut out all your soft parts, and you would have everything you need plus the dust cap that's laying on the table here to basically replace everything that was once in your magnet and your basket. So basically, you're cutting all this. You're probably gonna. The fun part's gonna be the first guy who's ever had to dig that coil out of the gap.
That's what I was gonna get next. So first, how do you remove a subwoofer from a basket? You have a blown subwoofer. How do you remove it from the basket?
Basically, what I would start at that point, you're going to take standard utility knife, works perfectly fine. Just take and slide across the surround, get the thing cut open, reach for into the spider area, which is, the suspension area down here. Just kind of take the knife and cut through that. Sometimes by the leads, you really got to kind of give it a little more, but you'll get it all the way around. At that point, if you did what you're hoping, it's going to be kind of stuck there, right? Like it's not wanting to move. And, generally what we've found is once this is cut, the surround, and then we cut the spider, the best bet, and believe it or not, I'll quote Dan Brown on this. He's actually the one that's kind of figured out this works consistently. What we'll do is kind of just like grab onto the thing. And if you need to take like a plier or something, I got like a lineman plier, I'll take. If nothing else, if you need something to grip. But if you can get onto the spider and kind of give it a twist, sometimes you can get that intertwining, tangled up mess that's inside the hole a little bit loosened. And if you can get it to come a little bit like that, then just kind of quickly yank the thing and it will kind of at least break that so it unravels. But you're still going to be fishing, the coil out until you get everything out of there. And that's the next thing too. You're going to want to make sure you got it all out of there. You don't want to leave pieces behind. I've seen that before.
Remember, I started doing this back in 2000, right? So the formers we were actually using even Kapton formers back then and some other, and they would actually break inside the gap. I don't think the aluminum formers don't do that at all, right?
They can.
I've seen them bend, but I've never seen them break.
It's not generally. I mean, it depends on the sub. Like if you got a thin enough former and a heavy enough coil, sometimes I've seen that on some like 8-inch drivers where the coil used to snap in half on a few of them. You see it a lot more on them plastic type formers and stuff like that where it'll snap.
So is there any tricks?
It's smashed.
Yeah,
it's
so it's smashed.
in there.
Right, because you overdrove the driver and it hit the back plate, right?
Yeah.
Right. And if you get it so bad where you're having a hard time, if you're lucky enough, like the Sundown woofers and a lot of them, they do have the vent holes in the bottom. A lot of them do.
Oh yeah.
You can a lot of times take like a T-handle. You might break it off inside. We've had, you're gonna fight.
No.
If you get them stuck in there really good, you'll be fighting them. But a lot of times you can get them in the vent hole and you hit it down with a hammer and just kind of go around in a circle, try to get that coil to break loose, get it to come a little bit more that way. But the main thing is, yes, get all the pieces of that coil / former, anything that was one time part of that coil needs to come out of the hole. It can't be like halfway clean. I've seen that before, and I've seen people actually have part of the coil where it's slinkied off, still in the bottom.
Oh no!
Tight around the hole, and something's hitting, and hey, there's something wrong with the sub. Okay, well, let's take a look at it, see what we got. Kind of sucks because you're cutting out to figure out that I mean, it happens. We've probably all been there a time or two. Hey, this wasn't supposed to go this way.
And that's kind of worst case scenario.
That's what we're trying to avoid, in the
But if it comes off whole, you're golden, right? You don't have to worry about fishing stuff out. I mean, you could, if it does, hit it with the air compressor, get all the little shards out.
Get everything blown out. What we'll recommend, take some duct tape, kind of fold it around.
Two-sided tape. That's what I used to use.
And then clean it a little bit like that, which I'll run it through just again.
On like a nail file or something works really well, or like a gauging tool, just a long flat thing,
or even
works great.
Letter opener.
Yeah, letter opener works great. So,
but anything, make sure that you got everything cleaned out.
Yes.
The main thing, and then tape it. Make sure you get anything metal that might be little fine stuff. You'll get that out with the tape, the last end. Okay. But first, blow it out normally with an air compressor. Generally, like I talked to Doug, we were joking about it. I said, I don't know that I'm going to grind the baskets inside the camera room and so on. But I did bring along a couple of tools that I generally use. I'll grab them here quick and kind of go over that.
So while he's grabbing those, so once you have cleaned out that pole piece and that gap, it's actually the gap around the pole piece. So what I used to do, and I'm sure Dan does, they actually make a plastic sleeve that you stick inside, and that protects it for when you're cleaning it up. Nothing goes back inside. But if you don't have one of those plastic sleeves, you can always just tape around that gap.
You can tape the whole top.
Blue tape.
Yeah, I actually made me some plastic some plastic pieces that look like a upside down cup, and you just slid it over, and it had a flange on it, and that worked great. So I made those myself.
And if you don't have that, you're using tape to clean it out. Take a couple pieces, tape the top,
because you don't want anything to fall back in the gap. So that's super important. Once the gap's clean, it stays clean.
Yeah, keep it clean.
Yep.
And if you're gonna let it sit around for a few days while it's just sitting there waiting for the recone, say you got cut it all apart, you're waiting for it, definitely cover the thing up and make sure you blow it one more time out just to make sure nobody threw a toy in there or something stuck in there.
And the reason why you want to tape it off is for your next step, right?
Yeah.
Which is
you don't want like more debris falling back in there.
Right.
You already had. So, but for time saving sake and for a few things like making a huge mess in here, we have the basket. It's already round right now, so we are basically down to the metal. Can we get the camera to click on to this way? Okay, we're working on it.
Oh. So what he's talking about is you need to clean off every bit of the old glue.
Get the glue.
Oh yeah.
And
generally on the surround, you can take like your utility knife that you use to cut it out. You can kind of get underneath the surround pretty good with that. Sometimes if that's not gonna work, I've seen the guys take the oscillating tool, and that will
die grinder, baby.
Get underneath that. It's on a lot of these where it's got the epoxy and that on top. Sometimes that's a little bit easier, but like Jeffrey was talking about, a lot of the guys now are seeing these guys doing the recone swapping thing. And you can take a torch, but here's the thing: you take the torch, you might end up burning some of your paint on your basket. It might, it's SPL type stuff, yes. But I mean, if you're trying to not care about your basket, you take the torch to it. It generally won't burn the paint that fast, but I mean, you do have the chance of that, obviously. But you'll heat it up and you can lift the glue off. Obviously, that way too.
Hold on real quick before you go in. One of the best tools in the world for working with a sub and a recone is a Lazy Susan, which he's got underneath
Yes.
That would be, and you can make this pretty easily. I mean, this here is just literally, I had circle round cutouts from sub boxes from being made a few years ago for like a white display. But yeah, I had that. You just get like, go to your local hardware store. They should have
Lazy Susan
type spinner. Stick a couple screws in there, and it makes life a lot easier. But another thing I used to use for years prior to having DTX, I know it would never work now because one little bar stool is what I had. It was kind of like Memphis car audio.
Oh yeah.
It sat on there and it could spin, and I'm like, okay, well, this is gonna work. But I did a lot less recones at that time. It was just basically me and a couple guys that we competed together and did them that way.
Right.
If I had to try to do that many on that bar stool, there probably been about that many done in its lifetime, but that thing would be, it's pretty shot now. We use it to actually cut subs apart and clean baskets with now. But
I think the bearings get a little crunchy after a while. So.
It's pretty bad.
All right, so we're back to cleaning everything up. Once you've got everything cleaned up, now how clean is clean too?
Well, clean is clean enough to where you hit this, basically what I use to get my basket sanded. Even if you torch, I don't care what you do, you should probably still just make sure whatever residue and whatever was stuck to that basket, you torch it off. There's still stuff there. So you still got to hit it with this sanding flat disc deal.
Grinder.
So is that on, do you do that on both the top and also on the spider landing below?
On the spider landing, yeah, you do both. You'll do down here and up here. Clean that off because you got to get this old CA and everything that was off here. Now, if you haven't sanded this before, make sure you do this either outside or try to do it in a well-ventilated area. You are going to have the worst case of mustard gas you've ever had in your life.
Especially if you're working with the CA stuff. That stuff.
The CA, when you hit that. It's bad. If it gets in your nose, your eyes are watering. It's the worst thing ever. You know, it generally happens when we're at slam, when we're standing out back. You got three guys with them big grinders, and it's like it looks like this huge cloud of sometimes then it's pretty bad. I mean, the guys that are downwind from us, I felt pretty bad for because they had to been dying of that smell, but. Basically, what we're saying is it's probably toxic. 99.9% sure it's not good for you. But don't breathe it in. Try to do it in a well-ventilated area. Obviously, you know, we're in the middle of winter. It's kind of rough for us because sometimes it's not easy to go outside and do it. So I got this vent system thing I kind of got rigged up. It works. It's not perfect. Dan Brown will agree. It's definitely far from perfect. But,
or if you want, you could use a respirator.
Respirator is also,
it'll help.
Another good idea. But if it's still stuck in the room, though, you don't want to cloud your whole room out. That was the other thing. I would hit this and grind it in here. Not only the mess, but this would be like a cloud of smoke from the CA, and it just I can imagine everybody here would be mad at me. But yeah, at that point, you get it all to this. Now, what I would say for cleaning, I take basically a rag, you know, just a standard, whatever rag would work.
Microfiber,
yeah, they had them cheap at the store. So yeah, affordable is what you want to do when you're just wasting it pretty much.
So what did you put on there?
I just put a standard alcohol.
Yeah. The 70% or 90%, or does it matter?
This is 91, but I mean, it dries quick that way.
Yeah, the 91 dries so much faster than the 70%. So
you'll be sitting there, and the whole point, we just want to get this dirty, like if there's the dust or the debris and that stuff.
Even the oils from your hands, act with the glue differently.
Right, and anything that might affect the glue negative. I mean, I don't see the glue let go a whole lot, but it could happen. And if you don't prep the surfaces right, it definitely has a lot better chance of that happening. So at this point, we'd be sitting here like this. Now, there is shims that you can use. Now, what this one is here is paper is what I kind of suggest to even on my recone video. I know there's people out there that sell shims. You can buy shims. but you have to make sure it's the right shim. If you buy a shim that's not exactly for what you have, it's not guaranteed. Oh, well, hey, I ordered a shim from George on Florida base, and but you have to make sure, yes, he got some, but they don't always match what you're doing. You got to measure out the gap and the distance you would need to fill it to make it perfect. That's why I suggest just do the paper. It's flawless. Everybody has, generally computer printer paper, or you can get it readily available. That's why I just suggest that. A lot of the Neos we build too, they're tighter gapped, so we don't have shims, contrary to what people might think. There's shims to build production woofers like this XD2. There's definitely, I have a shim that I would do it, but I wanted to kind of keep it the same way as like, hey, this guy ordered a recone from DTX, came to me in the mail. How would I put it in at home? Try to keep it a little more to that as I can,
right.
Without, yeah.
Another thing you can use is playing cards, like, poker cards. That's what I used to do when I first started.
Just make sure you put them in and shim them evenly.
Right. They don't overlap.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, okay.
Like
so you would just put them each individually
on each side. Yes.
Okay.
Right. Like on a 3-inch coil here, like the paper for this seems to be about perfect, because it gives you a little bit of a gap, but it's, so it generally on this, but some of the 4-inch and other odd size ones can be, you pretty much got to get creative and cut shims out of paper and do whatever you got to do. But basically for this one, I measured this one out. It came out to where I got enough sheets here. Now people ask, how much do you know to put for your shim? You want to have it tight, but you don't want it so tight that you're going to fight to try to get it out, because what's going to happen, you're going to rip it. It's going to get stuck in there. You're going to hate yourself. You're going to have a bad day. It's probably not coming out. And then we might have to explain over the phone how we can use the torch to try to get that back out, since it was never used, and try to get it back in. But
what they could do is start off with a few sheets and just put another sheet in there and just kind of test how tight it is.
Definitely. And if you feel like it's too tight, it probably is. Okay. If you're thinking, hey, I think this is going to be a problem, it can be. I've seen it where people are like, well, I'll let this sit, and then it got stuck kind of, and it had a lot in it. And it, this one, it's kind of sliding okay, pretty easy. It doesn't have a lot of wiggle to it. You don't want it to sit there and you can move it all around the world, because you're obviously not shimming it very centered at that point either. But you want it to be nice and snug. Like this one here is nice and snug. Now, if I get another sheet in there, what normally happens, you can tell when it's getting too tight, you'll get it like this, and it'll sit there and you'll kind of fight it. But what you want to do, kind of always remember, go to the center and pull it straight, the paper, because then this coil will now smooth in and up and down, and it'll feel no different than if you had a shim that was roughly proper for it. Now, if it's going to be too tight, you'll feel it really kind of pull. This one is snug, but I mean, it's still, you're to the point of being able to move it. So with that being said, I would say this is probably where we'd want this shim to be. You don't want it to be, like I can take, like just for instance, I'll just pull a couple sheets and set them aside just to kind of get the idea, because you'll be able to tell right away, as you're putting it, it falls right in. I mean, but it's very sloppy feeling. It's not, able to feel snug, so where it's going to be centered properly. And you can see kind of a lot of gaps sometimes. You probably won't see it too easy on there, but the paper kind of, you can tell it's very, very loose in there. It's not, where when it's snug, it's a little bit more of a challenge. Where when it's snug, it's a little bit more of a challenge to pull. So I'll put these back in here.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's a good thing when you're using multiple sheets of paper. If you feel it's too tight, just take a sheet off, or if it's too loose,
just pull a sheet aside. And then I'm going to test this one too, just one more time, because I'd hate for this to be the one that I glue in all wrong. And this would be the one I would mess up terribly. But see how I can kind of pull this. What you want to make sure is you can be able to get it back out, and it's smooth coming out. If it's really hard to kind of get it to come back, it's not going to get any easier once it's glued in. It's going to be still tight, and you're going to get it fighting it. It probably might bunch up, but what generally starts happening, it'll start to tear. at that point, you're thinking, okay, pray this is gonna and get a buddy and have them really push up and down a lot on it and keep pulling it while they're doing it, and hopefully you can whoop, and it comes out, because we've been in that situation a few times with some of the Neos, because we'll try to stuff as much in there tight as we can, because we want those centered.
You want perfect. You want a perfect centering. Yes. Yeah.
And you'll get them stuck, and yeah, Dan Brown, he's helped me fight this sometimes. Normally there might be some cuss words involved. Random objects flying across the, we'll try to resort from all that. So, but yeah, you want it to be I can pull it up and down. It's not like really pulling the recone up too. A lot of times you'll tell too, if it's tight, like overly tight, it'll start pulling the recone with it too, because it's got like it's too tight. You can drags too much, so it pulls it up.
Tristan out of Barbados asks, can you use a Dremel as well for cleaning up and removing the glue? You can, except for the problem with the Dremel is it's so finite. It's really hard to. It takes a while to clean it. That's why he uses the bigger sander, because it takes off more, and then you can use the Dremel to fine tune it.
Oh yeah,
you could if you really if you got something like this though, that's gonna take. Well, I'll take your hand and everything if you like.
That's right. Ain't no liar there.
It'll go right down. But other tools that a lot of times I'll see people use, and I've used them years ago when I didn't have to do bulk. Those little like air die grinder things. You get a little and roll lock end or something on it. It's a lot more controllable. And especially like, like if you're mentioning females and stuff, Kayla does that too. She will not touch that tool. It's not happening. That's
a man tool.
Scary. That's but I mean the little air grinder, she's used that, and that doesn't scare. It's a little bit. It's what you feel comfortable with. I mean, obviously, don't go out and get one of them, rip your arm off, and Dan told me to go.
It's all Dan's fault.
Yeah, right.
I wish they'd have like I'm sure they do like variable speed grinders, right? So it's not so fast.
Oh, they do.
This one actually is like that to an extent. It's actually like a variable speed kind of ramp up. So it'll go whoom, whoom, whoom. At least it doesn't just, now like a lot of them, you turn them on and they're, this one kind of, that's kind of why I got that, because I didn't like the old one. It's on now.
It's on.
Yeah, this one kind of just whoom, 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 and then it'll get going real quick. So you can kind of get yourself prepared for danger, so to speak, before it happens.
All right, so we got the shim. Right, so we got the shim.
Yeah.
We're gonna drop in the
the shim. We got to drop in here.
Got the test fit
kit. Yep, we've already test fitted it.
That one's test fit. It fits. We got that all ready to go. Now what we would have would be a CA glue and accelerator. I have them in different containers.
So this isn't the CA glue that you just go buy at your hobby shop or at Walmart.
No, this is actually more meant for the higher temperatures and
it's also infused with some silicone, which makes it pliable a little bit.
Yeah, it's got the rubberized CA, so it
rubberized
flexible ability. This, if you buy from Recone from us and so on, we also have it where we sell a glue kit as well.
So back when I had my my company, that CA glue, the rubberized CA glue, was more expensive than gold. Like a 1 ounce bottle of it. Yeah,
it's harder to find too nowadays.
Yeah, CA glue. I mean, it fluctuates. I've had sometimes when I've had to pay quite a bit for it. Sometimes it's a little cheaper.
So when somebody calls up your shop and asks you, hey, can you just throw a little extra CA glue in? The answer is usually no.
Yeah. Well, here's a glue kit, $35.
That's right.
Accelerator, the rubber glue, and the whole works. But yeah, I mean, that does come though with enough to do a couple. You could do a pair of recones a lot of times. Guys will buy it, and it will be the exact same glue. So it's not like I'm selling you some knockoff, or it's literally the same thing we're using.
What you guys
use, I feel that way. I can be confident they're putting in the recone. They got the same glue. Glue should not be a problem at that point, if you're buying the same exact. So I try to keep that consistent. I mean, it's kind of a thing. I like to have the things consistent, do it the same over and over, and we don't normally have the problems. But yeah, no, basically at this point now, we would get the CA glue out. What that is, if people haven't used this is the mustard gas that you grind off earlier. Basically, you put it on, and it stinks when you put it on too. I mean, it's a super glue. You spray it, it's got a hardener, and it does give a gassy smell to it, but it's not as near like sanding it. So what I would do at this point is I'll take my shim, my little homemade shim, put it aside. Hopefully not knock all my little bolts over, but then we'll take the CA glue and you'll put it on this landing here that you cleaned off so we can apply for our new spider on our recone here.
So you're doing the spider first?
Yeah, that would be here.
Yeah.
And this is cleaned out. I already had the sub cleaned out prior. Like I said, we were just to save time and not make huge messes. So I took care of that.
Oh, look at that method. So it's not
this
just
is definitely again where the lazy Susan comes in handy. I mean, you can do it without. It's a lot more of a pain, but you'll find yourself, probably having a subwoofer like this on a table anyway, and you'll see yourself turning it in circles even without the lazy Susan because you're still naturally wanting to just kind of apply it the same way. But
so quick question on the CA glue: what's the best environment to store it? Cool and dry.
Yeah, definitely. What we recommend a lot of times, if you're going to buy it and it's got to be stored, keep it in the refrigerator.
In the fridge.
Yeah, keep the accelerator, and your wives are going to hate you, but yeah. So maybe in a plastic bag. And
make sure you mark it, and so nobody will think it's syrup or anything.
Right. Now here, then you want to make sure the biggest no-no is don't glue this in this way or whatever. You got your terminals or.
So make sure you line your leads with your terminals.
You want your leads to line up. Now, is it so important that it lines up 100%? Well, try to get it as close as you can. Is it that vital? No, as long as the leads can actually reach where you're going. But if you're, 45 over this way or you're, one way or the other, it's nowhere near, then you find yourself in I shouldn't have glued that down type of situation. But, generally, what I'll do then is I'll just take it and I will set it down like so. I'm gonna grab my little accelerator. This will harden this in a second here.
So that accelerator is methyl ethyl ketone. You can, if you run out of accelerator, you can always buy it at Walmart or any of your hobby stores. It is a controlled substance, so you can only buy so much of it, at least in California. But it's called methyl ethyl ketone. It's the same accelerator that you use for Bondo. And fiberglass.
I didn't know you could buy it at Walmart.
Tiffany or Tristan out in Barbados says he's going to tell his wife Tiffany we're getting a spot in the fridge now.
No, then normally I'll go around and I'll make sure I'll just hit it again once.
So for people that can't see that, he folded the cone up. So
now you don't want to just sit there all day long and hold it, because basically a good way to know, how do I know how much of this stuff to spray on here now, Dan? Do I use the whole bottle for one speaker? No, Dan Brown. Oh, sorry. That was a battle. If it's turning frosty white while you're doing it, or it starts smoking and there's fumes coming up, you got way too much on. Like I say, just a little bit lightly spray and it takes care of itself. Now the spider is set in place. At this point, on this particular sub, missing this would not be the end of the world. Like putting the little bolts in for the leads, because you can actually get at it from the side here. I don't know if you can see it on here, but you can get at it, right? You can get a wrench pretty easily. Now on the Sundown 12 frame, I know the people that have done this or broke the terminal off in that thing or know anything about what I'm talking about, realize that thing's tucked behind here and it's tucked in here, and that is not a good place for a terminal to get replaced when you got it put together, or to try to put the leads on after the fact.
Right. It's behind one of the legs.
It's definitely something that you want to make sure you do it in processes. I mean, it's like anything. Do it in steps. This would be a step you don't want to forget. And it's been forgot. I've had
Oh yeah.
A number of emails. Hey, what do I do? And how do you get these things? And it's on the 12 a lot of times.
Exactly. I think it's only on the 12.
So Dave Bradshaw says, do you have a video online of the recone process? The answer is yes. We're making it right now, Dave.
I do actually have a video. Yeah. We're going to redo the video because everyone thinks I'm dying of emphysema because it's kind of like the microphone was kind of a little bit picking up every breath I take type of thing.
All right.
But anyways, yeah, I'll go back to here. I'm going to put the little Allen bolts to hold the leads on currently. Now you're not going to screw them up because they're only going to go on one side or the other. Generally, if people are screwing them up, they took the terminals off and they put one on backwards from the other, or, hey, which direction do I put these back on? Because they didn't remember how they took them off. And that's generally fine. Most subwoofers, not all, most subwoofers are similar to this. The red is on the left and black on the right, with the exception of a few woofers like DD and a few other people that use reverse polarity on their magnets at times. They were flipped. I've had woofers where you'll find that, and even some other ferrites I've seen where they're actually backwards, and you got to flip them around. But yeah, the best way to check that too, and then when you want to make sure your woofer's done, and if you don't know how to make sure it's on the right way, just if you got a simple 9-volt battery laying around at home, you can pop test it. Your positive should always push the speaker up. So whichever way you're touching it with the positive on the 9-volt, that's the side that should be your positive. So just another little tip that, you kind of gain throughout time. People, it's stuff that I take for granted, and maybe just it's in the back of my head, but
always test your stuff whenever you change anything on your install.
Right. So yeah, you definitely do not want to have one backwards from the other either. So if you're noticing when you're installing the terminals that the other side, the black, is on the left, but it probably shouldn't be. You want to turn that around because that could be a disaster when you get in the car. We have had people that have made that mistake before, like, oh man, I had my terminal backwards, and yeah, that doesn't work so well for the subwoofer.
So Dave Bradshaw asked, do you sell complete bolt-on tops?
Well, it depends on the subwoofer.
There's only a couple of brands that actually do that.
Only a couple subs that you can do that with.
Right.
Generally, I'll make the customer send, like the American base, the DD, there might be a couple more, like I think DS18 had a woofer similar to that. I'm not sure if the B2 has a top plate that comes off. It might not, but there's not that many where they do come off like that. It's normally them killer Neos a lot of times with the removable top. But yeah, we will build full tops for such assemblies a lot of times, as long as they send me the plate.
Right.
And it helps if I don't have a motor, I might need sub.
I think in theory, I mean, it was also known as a field reconable sub.
Yes.
That I think like Hertz had one, and I think like Kicker might have had one, right?
Kicker did.
Yeah. So it's like if you're on the field,
Hertz for sure.
You
and the squares. The squares were all bolting kits.
Yeah, there was a few. I know even like the Boston sub had, well, it wasn't a replaceable top, but they had, what was it, like a removable coil. You could actually take the whole coil out of the center of the thing. I think it was that oval, what was that, SPG something or other they called that thing.
All right.
But yeah, there's been definitely some weird ways that they've made subs come apart and go back together and do all kinds of stuff like that. I think even Memphis might even had one of their Mojos had a removable top once years ago.
It had a removable whole top basket.
The whole assembly.
Yes.
Basket.
It was
and that's
dual
a lot
baskets.
of times with what it is for the Neos too, with the DDs and like the American base and that style. You can get that plate, you'll build a whole assembly. Generally, I have a motor I use where I can build any of them, hopefully off that one.
Gotcha.
Just try to.
All right.
But it's definitely something where if you're building that, you should probably, make sure everything's going to be together correctly. Have the whole sub either right there, or make sure I have exactly what I need, or I won't even take that job on a lot of times because it'll be more detrimental putting the wrong recone in it than just guessing. And all of a sudden the coil's like way too far down or it's too far
and it's
up,
melting and all kinds of
right.
stuff.
Now here what I'll do on this on mine, I go back around and there's like little areas on the edge
the
where
backfill.
There's cutouts. Yeah, and if it's got spots like you say, backfilling a little bit, just make sure that everything's covered real good.
And for people listening on the podcast, he's talking about backfilling on the spider landing.
Yes, we are on the spider landing right now. I'm just kind of going on the edge. I like to just make sure everything's covered. We got a good amount of glue. That extra little bit of glue, I know we were talking earlier, kind of joking, CA glue is, insanely expensive. It isn't terribly expensive enough to where you don't want to, use enough of it either. I mean, you don't try to make it stretch so you can do, 4 recones out of a little tiny bottle. I mean,
right.
Use the right amount. I mean, don't get mad if the thing flies apart and you didn't barely put any glue to hold it. You do want the glue. I mean, you can put it in, it's going in once. Generally, if you're not, running 12 times rated power to the thing or, demoing like Slamology days, you have a good chance that if you're running these on decent, closer to rated power, they'll last quite a while. I mean, a myth that everybody blows these every time they play them, that is a myth. I mean, if you're running the stuff correctly, it will play. I mean, I had a set of ZV4s that I ran in a daily ground pounding vehicle that I play around with. And I mean, I got them on Assault 12, which is excessive. Not needed, I guess. I'm running at 1 ohm, which is still excessive, but I mean, people would beg to differ and tell me, no, Dan, you should be running that thing down to almost a 1/4 ohm daily and
daily,
and give them as much torch and gas as you can throw at them. But the thing is, the coil's only gonna take so much, and that's what it really boils down to. I mean, a 3-inch coil can take. You'll hear guys, I run 8,000 watts. How much are you really running when Doug clamps the thing and you see what's actually getting put to it? Because the reality of putting 8K to a 3-inch coil for long periods of time, I just don't see happening. I have, if they got the coils, I'll buy them. I'm looking for these.
You're wanting to buy
thermal limits.
But no, there are limits, but I mean, most of these subwoofers, not just the Sundown. You got Roger Crossfire, Rusty DC, Nick Criminator, a lot of them, DD. They all make decent subwoofers. It's all the same kind of concept. It's just a matter, what is it made for and what are you trying to do with it? That's really kind of the big thing. But, okay, now
so
next,
Team Mini real quick says, make sure between each spider has glue, let it saturate through before accelerator is used. Had one come apart a few years ago, wasn't good on the coil, which is a good point. When you are doing the glue, you will see it seep through the woven parts of the, and that's why you backfill it. Right.
Yeah, it depends on the spider material. Like these are pressed more, so you push them in, it kind of seeps up around the edge. What I do on these, because they are indeed already kind of smashed. I know, but like there are spiders where you do stack them. And you do layers. A lot of us SPL guys do that, where it's layer after layer. Yes, definitely want that glue going through each and every, because it will. Once it lifts in one spot, it's gone.
Yes, it don't take long.
Yeah, the CA glue is strong but brittle.
It is. And that's the other thing.
Once it's broke, it's going the whole way.
When you spray that stuff on it, it makes it brittle on the outside. This inside is still soft and curing.
Right. And that's the part we got to remember.
Yes.
Now, none of us will remember that at Slamology, however. Okay, we glue this in and go to town at our own risk. A lot of times we know that it's not dry. Now, with that being said, proper dry time is not 10 minutes after you leave the DTX trailer. Proper dry time, I would say let the thing sit for 24 hours.
24 hours.
If you can, just let it dry, let the stuff cure. Now, you'll know that if you cut this apart because you had a mishap real fast. Some people have seen this because they have blown a sub pretty quickly into it. And you'll cut into it, and some of that glue is still wet. It's not like it's perfectly dry. You'll find wet glue under there. So, I mean, how long does it really take? I've cut some apart that have already been running for about a week, and I've cut into areas, and it doesn't necessarily dry once it's closed off that fast.
All right.
Will it dry eventually? I'm sure, but
All right, we got to get moving because we're gonna run out of time.
I hear you.
Shortly,
okay, so we are now going to do this round. Now, also to save time, I'm going to use what I have here is a two-part
what is that?
Now, what normally would come with the glue kit or normal? A lot of guys that use the E6000 or they'll use a rubberized glue, which I have a rubberized glue with the cap on. But in order to cut it short here, so we can let this dry, this will dry quick. We can do it and finish the meshing. So I got a two-part epoxy here and a gun. This on here. So now what we'll do, now we know this is clean, we wiped it earlier, but make sure this surface is clean too, because this is very vital as well. You want to make sure that the glue sticks to that also. But what I'm going to do, I'll put a little bit of the two-part epoxy on here. It doesn't take a whole lot, but we'll put it on. Now, I know I'm going to catch heck from people on certain aspects. Hey, Dan, how come you do certain things certain ways? It's kind of more a preference. There's guys that you'll see do this, and they'll have 7,563 clamps all the way around the sub.
Yep.
It's all in how you want to do it. If you want to put the clamps on, I'm not saying it's good or bad. It will definitely hold things in place, but generally, I've glued these like this for a number of years and not really had any kind of issue with it coming apart. It's
with no clamps?
With just like I'm gluing it right now.
Oh, okay.
But you have to remember there's certain things that we're doing that are a little, like this method here works because this is indeed a 5-minute epoxy method. And, it's going to dry and it's going to dry fairly quick. Now I got it laying down. It's into the glue now. But like I said, I'm probably going to, hey, how come you don't put clamps on there?
So
this dries really quick.
And also that rubber surround holds it down that gasket holds it down really, really well.
It does hold it fairly tight. And basically what I do with it as I go on there like that, if you are wanting to do the epoxy method, you can go and, any two-part epoxy will work. You can get that, Walmart or wherever.
And you also you want to align the holes in the epoxy.
Yes, you want to get the holes lined up, but while you're putting it down, when you line it, you want to line those holes up to get your tinsel leads lined up too. But definitely you kind of want to be able to put your screws back through the holes. But that's what I was saying earlier. It's not necessarily a must.
Because you can take the gasket off and redo it again.
Yeah, send the screws.
So for people listening, that he put a glove on and he went around the backside of the surround inside the basket to help remove any excess two-part epoxy.
Edge is set. You want the edge to be sitting up against the inside of the basket perfectly. And visually, a lot of it's just, basic common sense. You look at it, and if the thing's like smeared way over one way, okay, don't let it dry like that. Sometimes you're in the middle of things racing through it. I've seen, some crooked, and it very much depends on, what the guy was doing and how fast he wanted to get it on it.
I'll do that too. So I'll push on the back so that way it's not, hanging
and
inside.
I would recommend that also with the rubber glues, even with the E6000 or with the rubber glue that would come with the kit or anything that you'd use, still go around and just make sure it's set where it needs to be. That's going to be your best bet. But this one's about a few minutes here and it'll set up. So with that being said, I guess, I don't know, we can go on to,
so now you're going to pull the shim out the middle.
Not yet. I got to let this
once
dry
everything's dry.
Yeah. Now, this is why, like I said, to save us time, I use this epoxy so it will actually set up quickly and be done.
So actually,
but in the meantime, we can actually, what I will do is I will get our dust cap ready to go.
Yeah. So a big deal with the dust cap, it's not a big deal to most people, but to somebody that puts the time and effort into their car, make sure the dust cap aligns with the holes. You want to hold dead center above the dust cap so that when they stick it in the car, it aligns with the holes. Just saying.
Yeah. And generally what we'll do on ours too, we'll actually, on this one here, most companies will have it. So like this one will have a sundown cap. It'll say sundown across it too.
Yeah.
I'll take it with the terminals,
exactly.
And where the terminals are, you can go straight across and normally that gets you a pretty good, at least the sub looks visual. But in the car, depending on where your holes are, then it might be one way or the other. But yeah, it's you definitely want to try to make it look, like you tried a little bit. I guess.
You tried just a little bit.
Sideways. Yeah. But yeah, pretty quick here. We'll get to that. What I say on the dust cap, I just take like some standard, I don't know, 60 grit paper.
Yep.
I'll just take a corner.
That's important right here.
If you get a kit,
and all the dust caps will have what they call a glue foot. It's the little flat edge and you just have to sand the glue foot only.
Yes. Just this here. Yeah, you don't need to go and sand on the dome area, nothing like that.
It depends who you ask. I know some people
but just scuff it up a little bit. I mean, obviously, it gives
a little bit,
a little more edges for the glue to adhere to. So, with that being said, I will probably put this side and get this a little bit of glue there. But I will.
Is the cone notched? Oh yeah, it is. Right?
This cone does have a notch in it. Some down cones do.
Makes it so much easier.
Yeah, basically, if you don't have that, what he's talking about, you set the dust cap on. You got to take something like. Draw the circle around, try to get it centered, and then
I usually use a caliper.
You'll pick it up and you'll be like, man, was I hammered? I mean, it's like way off to, because you'll see everything else will be circular and the cap will be like half.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah, it definitely takes an art. If you got that getting that centered the first time, it might not go 100% as planned. Don't get discouraged. The sub's still going to play. It's literally a dust cap. It's not, But it should, try to make it look as good as you can. It is nice having the ridge to have the cap because it does make the job.
And if it's got the ridge, literally the cap sits right inside of it, the glue foot, and it just like almost forms into place. It's perfect.
Yeah, it sits pretty good on that. Now I have a nice little dust cap weight that Sundown makes. You can use many things. Before I had these, I used to play around with Honda race cars, little B series things and so on. And
so I used to have a little bag of pennies.
Crank pulleys. So if you can find an abundance of crank pulleys off Hondas, that's what I used to use. Just take a little roll of electric tape, set it on top, and set the crank pulley right on top of there.
Yeah. So I used to use a little bag of pennies, like in a Crown Royal bag with with maybe 20, 30 pennies in it, and just stick it in there.
Go. Yeah, that would give you a good amount of weight. And that would actually be pretty cool. Now here, I'm just going to go ahead and throw a little glue on because this does take a little bit of time to set up. The dust cap glue is kind of a contact type adhesive. So it does require a few seconds to kind of set up and dry, 2 minutes actually.
So one thing I have done before, but you have to be super careful, and you can really only do it with the notch, is you can spray the accelerator on the dust cap itself. And then place it in onto the subwoofer. But if you miss, it's done.
Right on contact.
But that would only work as if you use a CA glue though on the dust.
Right. Yeah. That's
like
correct.
This won't need an accelerator on this. This style.
So I use the same CA glue for the entire build. I used it for the surrounds, the spider.
Some guys will. I know they've seen a lot, like more in later years, where the CA glue, like I said, is very brittle and it doesn't like vibrations very much.
No.
So it might have a tendency to pop the cap off while playing music. Is kind of what we ended up learning with that. So that's why a lot of guys will switch to like a rubberized glue like this, so it will actually absorb a lot of that.
Or the E6000, a lot of people use for.
Yeah, that's very, very popular.
Yeah.
Although I don't know, someone told me that's banned in California. Is that?
I don't doubt that. I don't doubt that even in the slightest. That's the.
I don't know. I might have. I had a guy that wanted me to illegally smuggle him some E6000 to California because he said he couldn't buy it.
Out here it's kind of slim too. Like you'd have to look at like the Joanne fabrics or to really find them out.
And then it's like $100 for a little bottle too. It's like what? You go to Walmart up here in Minnesota, it's like $4 for that big tube.
Yeah. Don't get the clear one. Get the black one.
Get the black.
RP Patel actually found it. They have an E6000 in like a cockpit.
Yeah.
And it's been squirting.
Yeah.
So that was actually kind of useful too. There is some subwoofers that we do use a little more rubbery stuff on too, where I've looked into that now. We toss around ideas. We're all learning.
Exactly.
I learned about that tube that day. I was like, wow, they sell this in a bulk. That would have been helpful.
I need some.
I don't know, 4 years ago. But yeah.
And I noticed you also put glue on the dust cap on the
just
the
a little bit
part.
on the bottom ring, because
Okay.
once you put it in, it'll kind of let the glue soak in. It'll kind of round into the glue that's already there. They'll kind of go together, and it will help make a better glue joint.
Yeah, I've noticed I fill in a little bit more of the gappage when I put a little bit of glue on the dust cap itself. Now I don't, directly from the bottle, I take like maybe a popsicle stick and kind of, smear it on the flange part of the dust cap a little bit, just so when I place it on, it'll all kind of mesh together. Sometimes when I don't do that,
and a
I'll
lot
see
of
little
times
gaps.
if you get it 2 different angles, like you're saying, it now you're joining it in multiple different spots. It's not a bad thing, Hopefully they keep the thing on. This glue has actually been pretty good for dust caps. I mean, I fired off some pretty hardcore power to a few subs with this just to test kind of how
what glue is that?
I mean, that's the thing too. I test this same kind of stuff in our own cars, guys.
Yeah.
I'm not just here. You use this first, and then I'll tell you if it didn't work for all these guys. No, like we want to make
what glue
sure it's
is
working
that?
for you and
Is that
us,
the E6000 or different?
I use both. I do use a lot of E6000 for like my own personal subs. The back sides of my surrounds, we do crazier things than what is required for my subwoofers. But a lot of the guys in the SPL range will take E6000, do the whole bottom of the surround, because we blow holes through the surrounds a lot of times, and that helps keep the surround together.
Okay.
1/2 of a second longer, I guess.
I've seen people fiberglass the bottoms.
We'll use a lot of different adhesives, but so far the adhesives have been pretty solid. The CA glues have came a long ways. You got to be careful. I know there's certain CAs you can get cheap. Like if you're buying a pound bottle of CA glue and it's like $18,
that's the wrong stuff.
Very good. A good pound of CA generally to the market, you're probably around $100.
Yep.
Wow. If you buy,
so it used to be $160 for a pound.
Okay. Well, but if you get an accelerator and rubber glue and the whole works, you're going to be around that $150 range for a big glue kit like that. If you're buying decent quality glues, you're going to pay. But I mean, you are gluing in a couple $100 recone a lot of times. I mean, do you really want to take that chance on that,
All right. While we're waiting for that real quick. Oh, okay. So how do people get a hold of you or find your stuff and to get recones or talk to you about recones?
Best bet would be, we got Facebook, would be Directronics on there. Also, you can email Directronics. It's info@directronics.net. You can get a hold of me there. A lot of guys do try to get a hold of me on my personal Facebook. Do I hate that? No, I don't hate that. Am I mad about it? No, I'm not mad about it. But
don't do it.
The other guys sometimes get mad at me because, if you understand, it isn't that I have anything against anybody. Sometimes I got like a lot of messages I got to go through on that because a lot of people think that's the way to get a hold of me. And it's actually a lot harder because unlike on your business page, these messages just keep going down and down and down until they're gone. And then, a month later, I might get back to somebody and be like, hey, sorry, this was lost among how many messages. So it's not that I'm not trying to answer on there. I just prefer not to because it's a lot easier on the business page or on email. New news, I do believe, now don't hold this 100% gun to my head. I am looking into possibly installing a phone number for Directronics at some point. With a real live person to talk to.
Like an office phone?
It's going to be, I'm going to have to. The email thing has been good and the messages are good, but there will be some things changing on DTX that I got to also allow a phone line for some support and stuff like that. Now, that's going to be a little bit down the road here, but we will get into that probably, maybe have a whole nother session with you guys a different day.
All right.
But yeah, no, I'm looking into doing a few things different. But if you need to get a hold of me, Facebook, email, either one work for now.
Okay.
We'll probably have a phone number eventually.
Or at events, right? You're going to be at
yeah,
Slam?
I mean, we do go to some events. I'm going to try to get the list of events figured out. It seems like it's hit and miss with things. Now, I don't know, maybe I'm stepping on bad territory or something, but there's not DB drag, no more slamology. That's not going to be a thing. That's correct. Okay. I didn't know it.
As of now.
As of it,
okay. Yes. Yeah, as I realized last year, we had to drive like, you know, to Egypt up by there by our yeah. So, okay. All right. I won't beat a dead horse, but yeah, I was just kind of curious if that was going to be.
And if you guys are out at the show and you want your stuff reconed, Dan's out there. Make sure you bring your wallet because you're talking about.
We might be able to fix it.
Yeah, so, he'll fix it. He's the best of the best. You know, it's going to get. You know, he does this stuff for a living, right? So if you're expecting to get away with something cheap, you know, get that out of your head.
Wrong person to talk to.
Yeah, well, I mean, I do have some.
I'm not saying you won't do it. I'm just saying
it's whether or not, you know, and I do get that, bringing up that as a sore subject to some people, and it's not that it's outlandish to ask for a recone, you know, whatever such a price. Sometimes it's a little more outlandish for me to try to tell a customer how much his recone is going to be when the subwoofer only costs such and such amount.
Right.
It's not that I diss the subwoofer company or I'm trying to come off. I've had guys call me out on it. Oh, why do you say my sub is just, you know, throw it as a paperweight or. Well, here's the deal. If it's going to be $150 or $160 for a recone plus the shipping and your subwoofer was $200 for a new one, it might not be, you know, just maybe go get a new one or maybe wonder why the manufacturer never offered parts for it in the first place. You know, a lot of them are disposable, I guess you'd say a field destroy, you know, at that point.
So one thing I've always learned and I appreciate is you're not paying somebody for their time. You're paying somebody for all the years and the knowledge and the R&D and the destroyed subwoofers that they built to learn how to do yours in a timely fashion. That's what you're paying for.
And hopefully with products that hold together.
That's right. For quality products, you know, right?
We do a lot of that too. We'll try custom stuff for people, and that's you know, it's a trial and error thing. I mean, sometimes it works really awesome. Sometimes it's part of the learning curve. But that is what we try to offer guys. You know, give them a little bit more of an edge. Hey, we've had guys do this. Let's try this with you.
All right, guys, I got to cut this up.
I can pull this.
Yep, let's pull that. So you're gonna pull the paper out the middle.
It should pull pretty easy like it is. It's okay, now we're glued though, but you don't want it to fight. But yeah, right out we go.
Nice.
Came out nice.
Sub not rubbing or anything like that. You're good there. If it's rubbing at this point now is where I'm saying this is where some guys might get a little concerned. Oh my God, hey Dan, what's going on? My sub is rubbing. I had it shimmed perfectly. I know I did. I don't know what I did wrong.
Liar.
Did you connect your leads? They'll ask me what? I'll say your leads. Did you connect your leads? Are your leads connected to the terminals? You know, or if they got direct leads, make sure the wire is not touching.
Right.
What a lot of people don't understand, especially first timers, is that if that recone doesn't have these leads hooked onto the terminal here, and they do end up just being flopping there, if they are touching one another, it's gonna feel like you shimmed it wrong. It's gonna you're gonna feel that in the subwoofer. And I don't know how many times I've had guys do it correctly and they're like, okay, I don't know what I did wrong. And I have had to answer that to people like, hey, check your leads, make sure they're not touching anything metal or touching themselves, because it will be, and it'll feel like, oh my God, I did this wrong. I just spent all this money. They're happy when that's the case. If it's not the case, then there might be other issues. But, you know, that is something to keep in mind that a lot of people do miss. Those leads, when they touch each other and you got that coil in there and, you know, the motor's charged, obviously it's gonna act like it's gonna be like a rubbing coil is what it really feels like, truly. But yeah, it's fighting.
All right. So
yeah, let's get an overhead shot of what it looks like now.
Yeah.
Can we do that? Oh, that's with the
Oh, oops.
Don't want it to go falling too far off.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's basically we got the dust cap glued. It's sitting there. Everything's glued up now, and like I said, I would.
So wait 24 hours,
24
and then so I would always pop the subwoofer just to confirm that the terminals are the right direction.
Right.
And
that would be
with
like
a 9-volt.
Just grab a standard, 9-volt battery. I mean,
Yep.
right now it might pop. That's a 10-pound weight on there, but yeah, just like I say, have the positive. Don't know if you can see it on there, but positive should be positive.
see it pop.
When you touch it, it should go up, and
Yeah.
it is coming up.
There you go. And that
If it
means
sucks in, it's reversed. The
Right.
polarity's
Yeah,
reversed.
and if it's going your backwards, and then it sucks it down.
Yeah.
It's pulling it the subwoofer down. So yeah, that's one way to make sure polarity is correct.
Yep.
Basic little things, but I mean, hopefully this little tutorial is helping out somebody out there, even if it only helped out one or two. It got the point across to somebody, maybe gave them a little bit of insight or encouragement. Yep. Hey, this guy just did this while they were having a conversation.
Yeah.
It can't be that bad. So, yeah, this would be ready to rock. Now, before we would send this out, obviously we check the ohms, make sure that's right.
Yep.
Before you put it in your car, you should also do the same thing, because I have had guys where the terminal could be broke too.
Yeah.
I didn't realize it. It might ohm out at the leads, but it doesn't ohm out in the terminal, because the termination is broke somewhere in the terminal itself. I've seen that before. A lot of little things. I'm just trying to give out ideas, try to help you guys out, so it's not quite such a problem out in the field. Get the parts. Let's hope you have success with them, and hopefully every recone goes in and quick and easy, just like that one for everybody. And like I said, this one would be just left to dry, and then tomorrow we'd test it out and make sure everything's good, and this one will go off to its owner.
Awesome. All right. Hey, guys, I really got to get going because I got people. I got to take their money, That's what I do on Monday nights. I take people's money bowling.
Oh, yeah, there you go.
But so next week we are going to have on Sparked Innovations, talking about some of their products and whatnot. Ed Lester, friend of Jeffrey's, and Rich Tornetta. We're going to have them on. Then the following week, we're going to have judges on again to discuss judging questions, rules, and whatnot for DB Drag. So we got all that coming up.
Is that all in stone, boys? Is that good to go? You guys got that?
I believe they are. I haven't heard from Wayne officially, but we haven't had any discussions, so my assumption is they are.
Okay. Yeah, I know there was some discrepancy. I seen that kind of go wild for a while. I tried to stay out of that one. But yeah.
But
all right, cool.
So if you guys
keep doing what you do, I'm ready to see you guys in the lane sometime
this
year.
Yeah.
Talk soon.
All right, Dan, we appreciate you coming in to help us do this. This is awesome, dude. I think it was very helpful to some people. It was a little long, but normally, what is it, 15, 20 minutes for you to recone a sub?
Yeah, I mean, as long as everything's prepped like this.
Yeah.
The prep work. Yeah.
The prep work is what takes time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And probably the more painful part is,
yes.
is the prep work, because the grinding
point,
and
this is the happy joy part.
Exactly. So once you get that all prepped, just like we said, it's a drop in and then glue and bam. You got a brand new speaker.
So anybody can do that. It's really cool. I mean, like I said, it's a simple DIY thing that somebody can do. It'll save you some money. Instead of buying a whole new woofer, you can buy a recone for it. Yeah. Those things we're trying to be helpful with. Also, remember in the description on Facebook, on the podcast, everything, we have the giveaway. All you guys do is fill out the form. We'll get a hold of you on Facebook or YouTube. And if you're our winner, we'll do it live on the podcast next week. And we'll see what we can do. Let's try and get those memberships up. We're currently like 330 members on that Facebook page. I have 100,000 hours watched on that Facebook page, but I only have 330 subscribers. So let's get our subscribers up. Anyway, guys, hey, I want to thank Dan Horner for being in with DTX. Check him out on Facebook and his website if you need parts for the thing. Jeffrey, once again, great job. We will see you guys again next week at 5:30 California time, the only time that matters, obviously. But I got to get going. So we out. Talk to you guys later. Peace.
Whoa, whoa.